Standing in the wake of this train wreck, my heart is beating faster in my chest. This depression terrifies me. When I'm awake, it's like these thoughts, they paralyze me. I don't wanna feel like this. I don't wanna feel like this. Time stops, weightless and cold. Silence burns like fire while my fears unfold. There's panic. Tooth to my cheek, too hard to speak without you. Lungs drained of air, life feels unfair without you. Come back to me, don't leave me to dream about you, dream about you, dream about you. How can I breathe without you? How can I breathe without you? Without you. What is left to say when the sky falls? I'm staring at your ghost in the stars. There's not a day that I don't miss you. The feeling swelling overflow. It's like I see you, hear you. I don't wanna feel like this. Why do I still feel like this? Heart ripped out of my brain. I sit here talking to myself. I think I'm going insane. Tooth to my cheek, too hard to speak without you. Lungs drained of air, life feels unfair without you. Come back to me, don't leave me to dream about you, dream about you, dream about you. How can I breathe without you? How can I breathe without you? The only way to fix this, the only way to fix this pain inside. The only way to fix this is a deep breath in as you say goodbye.
I kick ass for the Lord.
What about me?
I never loved him the way that I love you. Just drops the mic.
Sydney with his butt.
Can't see it from here.
What about the panty?
What about the panty? What's up, Butters?
I don't know why it feels inappropriate. Everything just felt inappropriate.
I think everything feels inappropriate after this.
Inappropriate. Yeah. I feel like that too. I even texted Joseph before this and I was like, hey, we're not going to ask all these questions that I usually do. So welcome in. Hello. And welcome everybody to 52/1993, the movie conversation podcast that is live, where we discuss movies from the year 1993. We're doing it on a different day. I apologize. Things happen. People get shifted around. It was the holiday weekend. I got holiday. I got COVID. Joseph was traveling. We got everything worked out though. So let me introduce myself and what we're doing here. My name is Cody, and I am joined by my co-host this week, Joseph, or Joe, as he has listed there. If this is your first time joining us, welcome in. We are happy for you to join us today. Just to give you a little bit of a heads up, what we're doing here is we watch 52 movies from the year 1993, important movies released this year by their weekend releases. Doesn't matter if they're good, doesn't matter if they're bad, or somewhere in between. And then usually we'll have the guest host on to talk about these movies, go through some questions, try and break down the movie a little bit that we're talking about. So it's a good time. Please interact in the chat, and please ask questions if you've seen this movie. If you've not seen this movie, feel free to ask questions too. We'll be checking that out as we go through this, and look forward to interacting with you in this. So please do so. Hopefully the chat is working. I think it's working. Yeah, it looks like it's working. It's not working on my screen, but that's okay. Joe, how you doing, man? How was your Thanksgiving?
It was fine. It was COVID free. Sorry for your experience, but
I
mine
had a
was the
great time.
opposite. So, oh, nice mug.
Thank you.
Little flex there on the side.
Well, I felt like it was kind of appropriate. Same director and
Spielberg.
everything.
Yeah, it works.
Very different movie though than
Yes.
that. Speaking of this movie that we're talking about Schindler's List today. Probably not a movie that a lot of people, if they have seen it once, probably don't go back to as much as they probably would another, like a movie like Jaws or any other Spielberg movie. It's probably not as rewatchable as some would say. But what's your experience with Schindler's List, Joe? Like, had you ever seen it before? And if you had, when did you see it? What was the purpose of seeing it? So I guess.
I don't actually remember. So I've seen it all the way through one time before. It had to be high school, college era, somewhere in that range. But I don't remember the specific occasion, other than it was an educational. This was not something that I got recommended, like, oh, check out this Spielberg movie on your own kind of thing. It was in some sort of like classroom or educational setting.
Yeah.
Where we watched it.
That's what I figured, and that's kind of why I asked that question. Most people, I would say, are shown this in high school. I can't imagine them being shown this any
Maybe
earlier than
after.
high school. I mean, we talk about things, I remember in 7th grade, we went through the Diary of Anne Frank and probably watched a movie version of that. And I know there are kids out there that read that book sooner and kind of get an idea about that. Some people watch it for extra credit, I guess I'm seeing in the chat over here. And
History class, maybe.
Yeah, history class, something along those lines. I actually didn't see this movie until much later. I don't think I saw it for within the last 10 years is the first time that I'd seen it. And the only reason I saw it was because I was doing AFI's top 100 list, and this I'll kind of spoil it. I already have that listed down here, but it's number 8 on AFI's top 100. And I, me, did a 3, do lists and like to go through lists and complete things. And I had to get that one done. So that was the only reason that I watched this. I honestly didn't remember much from when I watched it that time. I probably put it on and put it on late at night and fell asleep and just considered that a watch. But I definitely paid attention a lot more this time around. And I don't ever want to say that I had a good time watching it, but I definitely enjoyed the film a lot more and appreciated it more this time around. And knowing that I was going to discuss this with you, so I think I enjoyed it a little bit more this time around. So
It's an important movie. I
yeah,
feel like uh, enjoy is a good word, but like you said, like it's hard to find the right words for um, movies like this because like you're obviously not taking joy in what's happening.
right,
But
right.
um,
And this is a unique movie, and I hope we'll touch on it a little bit. And like the story and what's going on kind of behind the story, the main story of it. So I'm gonna go ahead and break down, like go through my spiel, go through everything, and then we'll get into our talking points and talk about this a little bit further. So
and don't forget
again,
to tell us what's on the VCR behind you.
on the VCR behind me is actually the VHS copy of Schindler's List. So
Okay.
I found it at a half price books not too long ago, and I was like, hey, yeah, I need this movie. It's a '93
So on
movie,
brand.
so very on brand. So yeah, I'm doing pretty good with the ones I've got toward the end. So you'll see a lot more of the movie, except for next week. But anyway, this movie's name is Schindler's List. It came out November 30th, but also wide December 15th, 1993. It is directed by Steven Spielberg, and it was written by Steve Zaillian Zaillian, based on the novel Schindler's Ark by Thomas Keneally. I don't have a long list for the cast, although there are so many people in this movie. Like 1,000 people are in this movie. I'll just go through the main ones here. Liam Neeson plays Oscar Schindler. Ben Kingsley plays Itzhak Stern. Ray Fiennes plays Amon Girth, I think is how it's pronounced. Girth. It's German. So Caroline Goodall plays Emily Schindler. Jonathan Sagal plays Poldek Pfefferberg, and Imbeth Davids plays Helen Hirsch. She's probably most recognizable as the teacher from Matilda.
Miss Honeycutt.
Miss Honey, yeah.
Mhm.
I knew I recognized her and was like, what are you in? So I had to look her up. Anyway, the synopsis for this movie, I have not checked this. It could be terrible. I hope it's not. Businessman Oscar Schindler arrives in Krakow in 1939, ready to make his fortune from World War II, which has just started. After joining the Nazi Party primarily for political expediency, he staffs his factory with Jewish workers for similarly pragmatic reasons. When the SS begins exterminating Jews in the Krakow ghetto, Schindler arranges to have his workers protected to keep his factory in operation, but soon realizes that in so doing, he is also saving innocent lives. This movie has a budget of $22 million and had a box office return of $322.2 million, which is pretty impressive. Yeah. Especially for this kind of movie, definitely. Okay, we have a question in chat. Is this based on a real story? You said based on a book, but is it based off of a person's actual life or just made up? So it is based on a historical fiction novel, basically, but it is true. Like this is all true. Oscar Schindler existed. The list exists, and the list is actually what prompted um, the book to be written, because the author got a copy of that. Like it might have been the actual authentic list and wrote based on that. Obviously, there's some liberties taken with the novelization and therefore the dramatization of this movie. But a lot of this is, I mean, this is based on very real events that did happen. So it's like one of those, I don't even know how to explain it. And like, it is historical fiction that it's based on, but I mean, it's very historically accurate too.
Mhm.
So they probably just didn't have a lot of these conversations and things that do happen.
Right.
Good question though. That's a great question. Cause I wasn't sure too. That was a point that I had to look up. This movie probably has our highest Rotten Tomatoes score, I think, 98%. It also has our highest IMDb score. I know that for a fact. And it is 9.0 out of 10 on IMDb. And Letterboxd has this as a 4.5 out of 5. And I struggled to find a negative review, but I did find one. So, but
Interesting.
Roger Ebert says, what is most amazing about this film is how completely Spielberg serves his story. The movie is brilliantly acted, written, directed, and seen. Individual scenes are masterpieces of art direction, cinematography, special effects, and crowd control. Roger Ebert gave it 4 out of 4 stars. And then here's the one negative review I found. And I actually got a little bit, like I got a good paragraph here. Is by Joanne Kaufman of People magazine. Don't know why this wasn't more prominent. If director Steven Spielberg's only intention in this battering black and white cinema verite style chronicle were to show the full measure of the Nazi horror show, he has succeeded. If the maker of Jurassic Park and E.T. wanted only to prove he could make an adult movie, he has done that. Where Spielberg has been rather less successful is in documenting the true story of an opportunist turned war profiteer turned Moses. So they didn't like it.
Okay.
Very interesting. Just a couple things I want to hit on about the legacy before we jump into our talk. This movie won or was nominated for, let's count them up here. That's 5, that's 9, that's 12. It was nominated for 12 Academy Awards. It won Best Picture, Best Director, Best Adapted Screenplay, Best Original Score, Best Editing, Best Cinematography, and Best Art Direction. It was nominated for Best Actor for Liam Neeson, Best Supporting Actor for Ralph Fiennes, Best Makeup, Best Sound, and Best Costume Design. So not too shabby on the awards. It's number 8 on the AFI's Top 100. I think it moved up from 9 from the original list. And then the only other thing I put in here is due to the increased interest in Krakow created by the film, the city bought Oskar Schindler's enamel factory in 2007 to create a permanent exhibition about the German occupation of the city from 39 to 45. And that museum opened in 2010. So little,
Very cool.
yeah, very cool. So let's move into some of these talking points and some of these scenes that I'm sure you struggled to find ones that not struggled to find ones, but struggled to figure out like which ones that to talk about. Because as I kept rolling through some of these scenes, I was like, oh, that's a good scene. Oh, wait, that's a really, really good scene.
Yeah.
So let's move into a few of these scenes that really, really make this movie. So I'll start with you, Joseph, because I feel like I've been talking forever.
Just keep talking, man. I'm here for it. No, we may have to, to your point, you could have picked a list of like 10 to 15 scenes easily. But I did kind of narrow it down to my 5, maybe 6. I think I did 6.
Yeah, I think I did 6 too.
But my first one is kind of a little bit further on in the film, like after a lot of the setup. So my
Okay.
first like important scene was like the whole like one-armed man
Oh, that
um
is very far into the movie.
coming in and how that whole situation turned out.
Okay. Okay.
So if you want to harp on anything before that, there's a lot that
Yeah, yeah.
happens.
No, the first thing that I'll go ahead and go over topic. I did not have that one on my list, but the first scene I had was introducing Oskar Schindler.
Like
So
the very beginning
the very
in the club.
beginning, yeah, when they're in the club and we meet this man, this mystery man who's like I don't know, clouded in shadow. Like shadows are super important in this film, and I think it's why he chose to film it in black and white because shadows are much more prevalent in a black and white film. And but you see this man who is very mysterious, is clouded in shadow that way, and I think you see his pin in this. You know that he's a Nazi. You see him kind of. I want to say flirting, but yeah, like flirting with these very important Nazi officers in this club and like schmoozing them and buying up things like drinks and meals and getting everybody to over to his table, so much that like by the end of this scene he has amassed a crowd of people, just like 20 people sitting at one table of all these very important Nazi officers that are in this area. And you still like, I like this scene because it introduced it and you're like, oh wait, this movie's called what? And this guy's like, who? Like, he's fraternizing with the enemy. We know the enemy before we even start this film. And it already gives you like, oh, this guy, what's his deal?
What is it? Who is he? Yeah.
But I really like this scene. I feel like it's super important because I think out of everybody in this film, we get the most character development from Oscar Schindler. Like, I think he gets from beginning to end everything, like a real like turn. And I think this sets it up kind of beautifully. And it just kind of starts with how beautiful this movie really is, like shot wise. The way the camera's moving, the way that people are framed, again, with the shadows, how people are lit specifically. I think that's a really important scene. And I just wanted to say that before we jump into the one-armed man.
Yeah, he does a lot of like the best whispering ever too, in that scene. Like he every time he's like whispering to somebody, you don't hear anything at all. It's
No,
amazing.
it's very good. Very good. What
Talk
does he
about the life of the
say?
party.
Yes, he is. Oscar Schindler is the life of the party, and uh, everybody wants to be his friend and doesn't know why. I think that's the other thing. Like, nobody knows why they are wanting to, like, they gravitate toward this guy. He's just got that charm, that charisma, obviously the money to just flash that around. And he kind of like, you see his womanizer kind of side to him.
Straight away.
Yeah, you see how much he's just willing to throw money around just to look important. So I really do like this opening setup from them, and I think it just is a good establishing scene for the rest of the movie. So
Yeah, I agree, and I love the way that they like, if this is your first watch of the movie, they don't reveal that that's Schindler until like the end of that scene. Like somebody finally
yes,
says his name, and I was like, very cool.
they said his name. They said his name.
Now we know who he is.
That's who does movies about. He's got a list.
But yeah, it was beautifully done and very well like set up as far as like cultivating the mystery, and then kind of, I mean, kept it going a little bit. They gave us like a little piece of like, okay, we get a feel for who he is, but we still have no idea like what's he doing here, what's his
Right.
goals. He seems kind of sleazy. I don't know what's going on. Is he
Yeah,
good? Is he bad?
I think that's what. And
TBD.
yeah, we get that whole that very. He does come off very sleazy, very used car salesman. Like, what are you selling?
Creepy stairs.
Yeah, creepy stairs. Oh my god, he almost looks fake whenever they like show his face. Initially, he just looks. It looks fake. I don't know. It's in a good way, fake in a good way. I don't know if that's a way to sell it, but I don't know.
I love to
So
see like the lighting rig you have to like make somebody really shine like that in black and white, because there were several like moments in that opening scene where he
that's what
was
I'm.
like glowing like
Yes, that's what I'm saying. Like
yeah,
that, especially that one of just his face as he's sitting there smoking. He's a cool
with like
smoker too,
the
by the way. Yeah, that look
cigarette
and
covering
like
his whole face.
you're right. He's glowing. And it does. It just looks kind of fake to me. Again, not in a bad way. But all right, that's my first scene that I had here. I'll go to yours then.
Okay. um so just to kind of fill in some of the gaps, we learned that he's here to go into business with somebody to like start a factory to make pots for the Nazi army, or pots and pans.
Yeah,
Um, and so he's like trying to get some Jewish investors who don't really want to work with him. That's where we meet Itzhak, and then he finally makes the deal. Like he's getting a lot of Jewish workers hired as opposed to like the Polish people because apparently they're cheaper. Um, and that's where we start on this journey and finally meet one of the workers who is a one-armed gentleman, which I never did catch his name, but um, so he shows up with uh, Itzhak at Schindler's office to thank him for like basically saving his life because pulling him away from like the other conditions that are being implemented
Mhm.
by the Nazis and working in a warehouse is a lot better, especially for somebody who's like got a disability or deformity like that.
Mhm.
Like that kind of person is not going to be treated well
No.
in combination with also being Jewish. Um, so yeah, he comes to the door. He like goes into this real heartfelt like thank you, you've saved my life. And then like at the end of his speech, he's like, "You're a good man." And like the way that hit, and like we're still not sure at this point, like if he is a good man. And like you could almost like see the internal conflict uh in Schindler as he's saying that, like, am I? I'm not sure if I am. I'm just trying to make money off you guys, but I guess I am doing good. Like, what's happening? So I feel like that was kind of like the first like small poke into like his character's journey, like
Yeah.
into actually like
And it
doing
kinda
a whole lot of good.
I feel like it kinda pisses him off a little bit in that not only he's like, "Never do that again." Like, "Never bring somebody to me again,"
You
like
caught me
that.
off guard.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think he says to Itzhak that he's like, basically like, he's got one arm. How am I supposed to like defend this when the Nazis come calling and say, "Hey, you've got a one-armed guy running machinery. What's going on here?"
Yeah.
So I think, yes, I think you're right. Like he knows in that moment that he's doing something good and that he's essentially become this lifeline, this lifeboat for these people. But like he also realized that Itzhak's laying it on pretty thick with hey, you're grabbing people that maybe we don't need to be safe. So
Gonna make things a lot more dangerous
yeah,
and
yeah.
difficult to deal with.
And Oscar Schindler's still in this like, I'm just here to make money. Like you guys are free labor, and that's why I hired you.
Yeah.
And it just kind of happens that. So yeah, you're right. Like it does like break through. It is that first like instance where it breaks through into him like realizing, oh wait, I'm doing something bigger than me.
Yeah.
So
He's still very like business and like not really caring about other people, or at least that's the way it's portrayed. Like
mhm.
who knows how it was in reality with Schindler, if this was just like his con the whole time, like to just save Jews, or if it really was like a sort of like progression. But um and then like the back half of that scene, like that happens right after we see like although he had kind of saved this guy, it ended up not being the case because of exactly what you mentioned, like the whole like snow shoveling thing, which was like I think that was that I don't know why that hit me so hard. Um, as so many of the scenes did, like there was a lot of graphic stuff, but like when the Nazis start talking about like making the Jews shovel the snow as like a ritual, like a degrading ritual,
Mhm.
that just like really stuck with me for the rest of the movie for some reason. Just like
Yeah.
I don't know. But anyways, like when they're doing that, of course, like they see this one-armed guy that can't shovel at all, and that's not going to work for them. So
No.
then he's like brutally executed in front of everyone.
Yep.
Um, and like the way like I kind of smushed all that together into one scene, just like the
Yeah,
way
yeah.
like he was trying to do good, but or he was doing good, whether that was like by intent or not, but he's still up against like a very large evil
Mhm.
that just like is not hesitant at all to stomp out any like attempts at doing good.
Yeah, and that's a good point to say not hesitant at all because every you were talking kind of like this ritual of the making them, do the snow and everything. When it comes to death and execution, there's no ritual to that. It is quick and it is like quick if they're not going to the camps, but the executions that we see, it's not quick enough. It's just ruthless. Like it's just
Yes.
like boom, done. Like
A lot of exploding heads, very large exit wounds.
yes,
Um,
exterminated
yeah,
is the best way to say it. Like
yeah,
it is a person
and
going in.
almost always like publicly too. Just like
Yes, it's like
sometimes like it was gonna happen in private, and they're like, "No, do it here under my authority," and you're just like, "Jeez!" Like,
it's because they just don't care. Like, and
yeah,
I don't. Yes, I think there is a reason for them to do it publicly, and this is, I mean, obviously this happened in real life. There is a reason to do it publicly, but also they just don't care about the people being there because they're not seen as people.
right.
So
They're not people.
it's just like, oh, whatever. You are an insect. You are nothing. So boom, you're done. You're gone.
Yeah, I think one of the guys said like something along the lines of, "Oh, a one-armed Jew, twice as useless," like or something like that,
Yeah.
where they killed him, and they're like laughing the whole time.
Mhm.
That's like basically the entire movie is like you see a ton of that. The people that they got to play the Nazi officers did a great job. Very believingly
It's
harsh and
It was
ruthless.
excellently cast from
Yeah,
every extra that you see in the background or Nazi officer, anybody like they're doing their job. And like when Ebert was talking about like crowd control, like it takes a great director to control every aspect of what everybody is doing in this film. And
especially in those big scenes like that.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Mm.
So yeah, we go from the one-armed man to what's your next scene?
My next one is kind of just like the whole like um, Jewish ghetto scene
Yeah.
from like top to bottom, which ended up being like pretty good chunk of I don't know if
Yeah,
you
that's
call
like
it one
I
scene,
mean,
but
it's like 30 minutes at least.
yeah,
And I don't know if you have this in your notes about did you know or your facts about this movie, but that scene, the Krakow ghetto liquidation is what it's called, is only one page in the script, but Spielberg turned it into 20 minutes. So it was 20 minutes of screen time. And all of those scenes in there where we see children running around, we see the girl with the red coat, which is the only color you see in this movie is blood or that coat, walking around the ghetto. The scene where the guy, I think Poldek is his name,
yeah,
comes out of hiding and like starts clearing the bodies off of the street as the German officers are coming by and convinces him that that was what he was told to do. I think this is all the scene that you're talking about, right?
yeah, oh yeah,
Okay.
yeah. That
Yeah.
whole clearing out of the ghetto liquidation, as you said,
Yeah. The
which is
liquidation, which is awful.
accurate, but I
What
hate
a
that.
like I hate to say this because it sounds very cliche, like hauntingly beautiful scene this was to really talk about a very terrible, terrible thing that happened. And I believe a lot of like we see all the stuff that happens in the ghetto, but we also see Schindler on the hill overseeing the ghetto and watching this, and that's where we first see the girl in the red coat, just a tiny girl, like 5 or 6 years old, walking around the ghetto as all this terrible stuff is happening around her. It's
Yeah, it was. I I was kind of confused at the beginning. I didn't remember this part of the movie at all. With the red coat girl. So I was kind of confused. Like, but by the end of it, I feel like I appreciated the choice to like. I mean, there was still like all sorts of atrocities happening left and right, but they weren't like, I don't know, it kind of pulled like it pulled the focus away slightly, like where you were concerned about this girl and like, oh, is she gonna make it out of this?
Mhm.
So you didn't necessarily like see some of the like big graphic stuff that was happening like
Yeah.
off to the side. I thought it was like an interesting choice, as opposed to just like going like there were definitely like the full blown like real bloody scenes and stuff, but kind of seemed like from a big picture and not just going from execution to execution to like to have like a different like approach to it was kind of cool. I thought.
Yeah.
Um,
I really like this often. I think this gets brought up more than anything, obviously, because it is that pop of color that in this black and white movie. But it always gets brought up. But that's like that I think that is officially Schindler's focus in throughout that scene. Like he locks in on the girl with the red coat, and when you see that red coat show up later, um yeah, I think that is the moment when that's the official turn, I think, where we're no longer dark side Schindler, we're on the light side now. It's like the halfway point for him kind of thing. I think that's the switch and why they did that.
yeah, it was powerful. Anytime
Yeah.
there's like just a pop of, well, not anytime, because that's not true, because I've seen a black and white movie recently where there was like a pop of color at the end and was not very impactful.
Mhm.
But here, it works really well. And not to skip ahead to like any fun facts, but I'm going to. The red coat girl was apparently like a real like part of the story that was like told to the author who penned like Schindler
Yeah.
Mark. She was like a real girl, and she wrote her own biography. And she, as of 2018, is like a painter in Germany, all places. But
That's
kind of
crazy.
crazy
Yeah.
to be
The
that
girl
girl.
that played her she was only 3, and Spielberg asked her to not watch this movie until she was 18, and she did not do that. She watched when she was 11 because of course if somebody tells me I'm in a
That's
movie.
kind of young for this movie.
Yeah. And then she
Uh,
apparently she was horrified when she saw
Yikes.
this. But then she did see it much later in life and was very proud of the role that she portrayed in this. But yeah, that there's a lot that happens in that liquidation scene. And again,
Oh
it
man.
focuses for 20 minutes on just this horror and the terror that the Nazis are going through. And I think what they said is like they split the ghetto into 2 different ghettos, and you see that like they do this many times during their like sorting process, but like a lot of there's a lot of children in this ghetto, and there's a lot of elderly and a lot of sick and people that get exterminated, and the more healthy people are in the other ghetto. I think that's one thing that they said, that they had an A ghetto and a B ghetto, and
Yeah.
they went through that.
I think that was like right when we're first introduced to Aemon too. Is like he's riding in the car and like describing
Oh
the ghetto
yes.
as he's showing up. Or no, somebody's describing it to him because he's like going to be taking over and leading the liquidation, if you will.
Yeah.
Um, his like today is history speech that he did like before all of the violence started was like just so disturbing. But like quintessential to the Nazi belief. Like it was about as plainly spoken as could be, like what they're wanting to accomplish.
Yeah. I
um
I also think it's interesting that he's sick in this scene too.
he's got like his cold, yeah, like
Yeah, he's got an
wiping his
actual
nose all the
cold,
time.
but it also comes off as like I am so disgusted by these people around me that they like it. I'm repulsed by, like, that's kind of how I got. He is sick. He's got like a cold,
Yeah.
because you hear him kind of talk, but like even when he's talking to the Jewish women that he has lined up and stuff, he's covering his mouth, and I don't think it's to prevent anybody from getting sick. I think he truly is disgusted by these people.
Yeah.
So again, just, I mean, it's not like an establishing thing where this guy, we have to learn that he is an evil bastard. No, this guy is an evil person from the
And in
get-go.
case you thought differently, the it, it's just skipping ahead just slightly
No,
because
go for
we're not done talking about the ghetto, or at least I'm not.
my next
But
two
like when they
scenes
get to the
involve
next
him.
spot and he's like on his balcony with the rifle
Ugh.
and just like shooting people before he has his morning coffee, it's like if there was any doubt, like not anymore.
That scene's so interesting. Not, I'm awful. Again, every part of Eamon is awful. Like that guy's just awful. Where like he's shooting them, and like he's got that woman in bed, and she's like, keep it down. Like basically he's shooting in the morning. He woke up, he goes out, he shoots some Jews, he comes back, he gets coffee, and hit the person that he's with is just like, can you keep it down? Like, I'm trying to sleep.
Like
Can you make me coffee? Yeah, she's covering her.
putting a
It's
pillow over, just like it's like your normal loud neighbors. It's not people being executed.
just twisted.
Just so commonplace. Like I guess she was like very attuned to his violence, so um, not really surprised. But can you imagine?
No, pretty intense.
Yeah.
What else do you have for Eamon? Or what's your next
Um,
scenes anyway?
yeah, it was the only other thing that. Well, we can talk about a lot happens in the ghetto, but a couple. I think one of the scenes there um, may have been like one of my biggest like emotional moments, um, which we can talk about that later when we get counted to that category. But a lot. I mean, it's hard not to cry during some of this just because of
Yeah.
the way it's like presented so brutally. Um, and I think it's easier in some movies when it's more just fiction, but when you know that like this is representative of history, it just hits a lot harder. And Spielberg, and I forget the guy's name that did the score, but man,
John Williams.
like yeah, John Williams, them working together on like these scenes, like whew, just cry factory.
Yeah.
Throughout a lot of the movie for me.
I think I read that so that Spielberg showed John Williams the film, and John Williams was like, I have to walk away from what I just saw. And like went off and like cried and just had his moment, and then came back and was like, I'm ready. I can do this now. And he actually said, I think this is a interesting quote, you deserve somebody better than me should score this film. And Spielberg replies to John Williams, I would, but they're all dead. So wow. I think I
Man.
read that somewhere. So yeah, pretty heavy.
Yeah.
My next scene that I had written down was the hinges scene.
Oh, the hinges with the
With the
yeah, yeah,
rabbi.
yeah.
I think it was
I,
the
di- I
rabbi.
didn't star that one, but I that was kind of one of my like micro scenes that I wish we could talk about all of them. So yes,
Yeah,
talk about
no,
it
I
because
love
I
the
like that
hinges
scene.
scene because the Nazi officers come into one of the factories, or the factory that, because I guess they're making hinges now at this point, and they're no longer making pots and pans, they're making these hinges, and they watch this guy make a hinge, and like Gareth, It's so hard to say. Um,
I'm calling him Eamon.
times him. He times him to see how fast he can do a hinge, and the man makes it in pretty good time. I mean, with the pressure over him.
Very impressive.
And then he takes him outside and puts him on his knees and tries to execute this man who just created these hinges, and the gun jams. And he clicks it like several times, and the gun continues to jam. He grabs somebody else's gun, one of his officers' gun. That gun jams. None of the guns that he grabs works. He clicks on this guy, I don't know, 20 times.
Oh yeah. And
And
just every time you're just expecting that to be it, you know?
yeah, with
just-
every click, you see the guy recoil, like, this is it. This is it. I think it is the rabbi. That is the one
I
that
think
they,
you're
they
right.
pulled out. And I think that I don't know if the reason is that they're clicking maybe divine intervention somehow. Like, he wasn't supposed to die at this point. So like there's the higher power of him making it past this. And
I didn't even, yeah, that's a good point. I didn't even like think about that. I guess I was so emotional that I was just thinking more about like how torturous it must be to not even be able to like just get shot immediately. Just
Yeah.
have to keep click, click, like, oh, just keep going until like one of these is going to hit finally. And I'm just going
Yeah.
to be in the worst anxiety and fear until that moment.
if you
And
didn't
just, like,
believe in a higher power after that, like, I don't know what's going on with you. Like, if
man, yeah,
it's one of the most intense parts of the movie with little happening in it.
Yeah.
Like, that was a tough one for me to watch, and very emotional as he just gets upset and walk away. Like, he's almost bored. I'm bored with the fact that I can't kill
I
somebody.
can't even. Yeah, he did almost like a little kid, like stomping off. It felt
Yeah.
like I think he gave him like a pistol whip or something for
Yes.
good measure. But
And then they just storm off. Like, yeah, that's a very intense scene. I was not prepared for. So,
and like what made it even worse is like the whole time. Well, not the whole time, but after maybe like the first 6 clicks or something, the guy like starts to explain like why he hasn't made very many hinges because like the machines were being calibrated. So he's been spending his morning like shoveling coal
yeah.
while he's waiting for the machines to get calibrated, and then he's about to get killed for no reason, basically. Like, which just added to like the emotion of the scene a lot. But yeah, divine intervention, I guess.
Yeah. What's your next one?
After that, so when Oscar and Eamon have their little like exchange, when Eamon's like literally fall on the floor drunk,
Yeah.
and kind of, I think, I think Oscar and Itzhak had a conversation maybe prior to this. For some reason, I feel like Itzhak somehow was like involved in like stimulating this sort of like push that Oscar makes to like present him with like a different way of handling things.
Yeah. That
With
power
like
doesn't.
an appeal to his vanity.
Yeah.
At
That
like the
power.
core.
It's that whole speech he gives about power and
Yeah,
how
emperors.
it shows more power to pardon or forgive, or not forgive, but to let somebody live as opposed to just killing them right away. Because I think because they know that I could kill you at any moment, but I've chosen not to. And I feel like he does a pretty good in the uh good Schindler way of him schmoozing and charming people. Does a good job of convincing him, yes, this is what it is. And um
It's a
I feel
pretty solid argument. I mean, you always wonder how much of that is actually being received to like someone who is so drunk.
mhm.
But it was a good. I mean, some people maybe are more susceptible when
Yeah.
they're drunk. I don't know. But,
And
uh,
we see it does get through to him a little bit, because
a little bit.
Eamon does start not killing people all willy-nilly, like he has been. Um, and the boy that's at his house kind of seals the deal, though.
Yeah, kind of piles up. Like I don't know. He has like that weird like moment in the mirror
Yeah.
where he like it seems like he was like put on his best like emperor self, and then he was like looked at like the dirty bathtub and was like, nah,
Yeah.
not this time.
Not this time. And then he goes to the window, and I still thought he was going. I still thought he was gonna, let that guy go, and then takes shots
He-
at him, keeps missing, and then the next scene we see is like his dead body on the ground.
yeah, I guess he was he had I guess he had stopped killing for long enough that maybe he lost a little bit of his rifles marksmanship or something, because
Yeah,
that's
lost
the first
practice.
time I think we see him like missing shots when he's
Yeah.
shooting at someone. So
During this Eamon time, well, not during the pardon time. I just thought about this, and it might be later than this. It might be earlier this, but they have that Jewish woman who is trying to help build a building, and she's telling them, "Hey, I'm an engineer. What you're doing is going to collapse and fall." And he's just like, "Kill her." And she's like, "No, no, no, you don't understand. Like, I'm educated and all this." And he's like, "Oh, an educated Jew, kill her." And just again, just with the ruthlessness of that man,
yeah,
and again,
I
just
think that was even before like the whole like liquidation of the gas. I think that was like
was that early? I just thought about
very
that one. I
early.
forgot about
And then
that.
on top of that, like kill her publicly, and then we're gonna follow her advice. Like
Yeah,
he's like after that he was like, yeah, tear it down, do exactly what she said, but I'm just gonna kill her, like because Jews don't get to argue with me, or like it's intense, man.
she was very bold,
She was.
but again, I mean, we didn't get to the. I guess this is just kind of showing off his ruthlessness early on to establish him. So
Yeah, repeatedly.
repeatedly.
Just in case there was any question.
My next scene involves Helen Hirsch.
Okay,
Um,
you got a Helen scene in there, nice.
yeah, yeah. Not only I'll start from the beginning. Helen is one of there was when Garth is or Eamon is first introduced, he chooses one woman from this line of Jewish women in front of him to be his assistant, or whatever. And no, poor Helen is chosen for this task, and you see her kind of throughout. He berates her constantly. Then we see a scene where he is kind of like flirting with her a little bit, and then by the end of it, he's like, "Oh, you almost had me," like she was hypnotizing him. Um, and he would never do any of that willingly with her, and then beats her. But that's not the scene I'm talking about. After all this, there's a scene where Schindler goes to the basement. There's a party going on, and Schindler's in the cellar, the wine cellar, getting drinks, and Helen is down there, and he's talking with her. And a specific part of that scene that I really, really like is when Schindler goes in. He tells her basically that he'll never hurt you, or he'll never kill you, because you're too precious to him. He doesn't make you wear the Star of David because he doesn't even want to be acknowledged that you are Jewish because he likes you so much. He doesn't even want to admit that he likes a woman that is Jewish. But then he goes in for a kiss on her and she recoils and he says, no, I'm not, this is not that type of kiss. I'm not doing that. And then I think this is kind of when Schindler has kind of moved into his role as Moses or this savior and kind of sees a person like Helen that he needs to rip out of the Nazis' hands or Goethe's hands from this. And that scene, ooh, it's so good and so powerful. And she's great in it, but I think this is one of his best acted scenes in the movie is when he's talking.
Yeah, I think between that and like towards the end, I think are like where he really shines. Yeah, it was. I couldn't really like decide whether the recoil that she did was like she knew he was like such a womanizer and just thought he was, coming in for the kill, or if it was more like fear from Eamon, like, and just being around him, like,
Probably a little of
or
both,
maybe both, yeah.
Yeah. Or, fear from Eamon, especially like if she catches him, fear from Eamon, because he has done that to her and forced himself on her, which is kind of how I took it. Like, that's how scared she was. And for him to reassure her and be like, this is not that type of kiss. And he kisses her on the forehead. Ooh, yeah, I think it's all of the above in that. And we do see it have a scene where Schindler does kiss a Jewish girl and a little Jewish girl too. And that scene's very uncomfortable. Not uncomfortable. I'm uncomfortable for the girls getting kissed because I'm like, that's death for them. And we see Schindler get put in. Is that when he gets put in jail? He gets put in jail for a couple days because he kissed a Jewish woman.
Yeah. Was he in jail? I don't
It
remember him
was
being
like a
in jail.
holding cell or something because he goes in there and the guy's like, "What are you in for?" And he goes, "Oh, I kissed a Jewish woman." And he goes, "Oh, did your prick fall off?"
Oh yeah, you're
Yeah,
right. Why did I think that was obviously a jail cell?
yeah,
That's weird. In my mind, like it seemed like he was like visiting somebody. I guess just because he has such like preferential treatment.
yeah. Well, he
That
wasn't in there long and he got let
yeah,
out. Like it was just
it
like,
didn't
oh, there's
seem like an escort to like a holding cell. It seemed
yeah,
like we're letting you in to visit this guy. But now that you're saying it, it makes a
yeah.
lot more sense.
Yeah.
So thanks for that.
Yeah, I think that also shows. I know we're kind of skipping to another scene, but that also shows how influential Oscar Schindler is. Like, yeah, I might have gotten thrown in jail by this Nazi, but this Nazi is going to get me out of it because I'm cool with them, and I've greased their palms enough to know like that we're cool. I've given them enough drinks that we're
It's all
cool.
about the
And
money, baby.
yeah, man, dude, you see so many exchanges of like goods and services and stuff. Like, it's crazy. What's your next scene? Because I'm at my next two are the ends.
Oh,
So
the end. Um, yeah, I before the very end, I had like the selection day scene, like before we go and or see Auschwitz, kind of starting from the point where like the women are talking about the gas chambers and they're all like, "Oh, that can't be real. Like they need us. Like we're their workers. There's no way that would ever happen." Like, you know, obviously setting it up for us to see Auschwitz shortly thereafter. Um, but really just like hard to accept the naive thinking that like some of these Jewish people still had, that like they're being so mistreated, but still like grasping some semblance of like worth and pride, even though like the Nazis are doing everything they can, short of killing them, to like strip that of them.
Yeah.
So like then like as soon as it's like the very next day, I think after they're talking about this at night, um, as like almost like a bedtime, ghost story type thing about the gas chambers, and then like the
Mhm.
very next day is like, hey, we got new people coming in, like some of y'all are leaving on trains. And that the main part of that scene that like really hit me was the kids, that are like being trucked off, like singing this song. I don't know what the song is, but like it
Just like
felt
a school
merry and
song, yeah.
happy, while all the women are just like horrified that they're being taken off to God knows where,
Yeah. And you
to God knows what end.
and you see some of the children run during this scene,
A
run
few.
away because they do know, or their parents have told them, hey, if this happens, you need to hide in ways that you can. And we see one particular child. We see his family numerous times throughout the film, but like going from hiding spot to hiding spot, being kicked out of each hiding spot because there's no room, and then he ends up in one of the bathrooms, toilets, and gets in the toilet,
In the
um,
shit.
in the shit, where other children are down there, and they're like, "You have to hide somewhere else." But I'm like, "How's he getting out of there?" Like,
Yeah, at that point, like none of y'all are getting out of there, I don't think.
yeah, so it's so unimaginable. It's hard to wrap your mind, and even seeing it is very hard to wrap your mind around the things that people have to go through to survive in that situation. Just
Yeah. And
children.
then like even still like the people that were like selected to put on the train cars and everything, like still seemed like that they had like some like grasp of like, oh, okay, we're just going to work somewhere else, like
Mhm.
not we're being carted off to our death,
Mm-mm.
um despite the rumors that are circulating.
Yeah,
um
and I think
that
Itzhak
one
was.
hit hard.
I think Itzhak was supposed to be on this train the first time, or this on this particular train, or somewhere in here that
I think
Itzhak
that
was
was
supposed
like,
to be on a train to send himself off to Auschwitz. And um, at one point he says, "Oh, we'll give you or I've asked them to give you special treatment." And Itzhak says, "I know what special treatment means at these places. You need to be clear." He says preferential treatment. So like, because special treatment is usually in regards to like those that are sick, or um,
code word.
code word, they're going to the gas
Yeah.
chambers immediately. So it's like half of these people know what's up and the other half don't know what's up, which is so interesting to me too.
Or just
Or
refuse to accept.
or it could just be, just so, malnourished, or to the point where it's like anything different is good than what I'm already going through, or they've convinced themselves. I don't know. But
We'll never know. I could never, I don't think, ever enter circumstances in my life that
are
would
you
approximate.
are you mad that I chose you to do this movie?
No, it, like I said at the beginning, it is it's an important movie. I cried more today than I have in a long time, but
Yeah.
you know that comes with the territory,
Sometimes
and
you need it.
it's difficult to talk about it because you can like the movie and the way Spielberg did things and the way the music was written, but like the subject matter is the most intense,
Yeah.
or in the group of the most intense categories.
And
So
even if things didn't play out the way that they played out on screen exactly, those are based on things that have actually happened. So Girth doing target practice at Jews happened.
Yeah.
Like that happened to somebody.
It's sure that I'm sure that this is not an exact representation,
Yeah.
but it's not like Spielberg just like went over the top for dramatic effect.
Yeah.
Like it all feels very real, and most of it feels like, yeah, this could be exactly what happened,
Yeah.
based on the history that I know. So, which is just heartbreaking.
Yep.
And you at least in my world, I'm fairly disconnected from like the news, and history has never been like one of my favorite subjects. Don't
Mhm.
hate me. But like to have it just like brought to the forefront for 3+ hours, like
Yeah.
it's the stuff I try not to think about. And that's a very privileged and silly thing to say, but anyways,
But
I don't know how I got off on all that.
no,
Uh,
I mean, you're right. It's a lot to see something pushed in your face, even though it's a fictional telling of it, but you know it exists. And you knew this exists, and you know it exists in some form
yeah,
currently. Like,
and maybe worse forms.
yeah, and
Um,
like just seeing that, yeah, it's a lot. It's a lot. It's a hard movie.
all that to say, I'm not mad at all that you chose me
Okay.
for this. It is a hard movie. It's
Yeah.
it's maybe toughest of the year. I think chat would agree because they've been silent the whole time.
Yeah. Yeah.
But anyways,
After we told a couple of the things that happened in this, they were like, I'm just gonna sit back and
I'm just gonna be
listen.
sad over here
Yeah.
while you guys talk about
Yeah.
it.
All right. What's your next scene?
I think the next two for me were like towards the end. I put like the the list, which was kind of like the crown of the pivotal, moment, the plan to get as many of these people out as they
Mm-hmm.
can to a new factory in his hometown, and um, starts off, like four or 500 people. I think we end up with like 1,100 when it's all said and done. Sorry for the dog in the background. I'm sure you can hear that.
That's fine.
We had some timing issues with the dog's owner being here to prevent this from happening, but that hopefully will be short-lived. And somebody knows exactly who that is. He's very excited that mom's home after a long day.
Yeah.
Um, Anywho, um, I thought it was pretty cool to finally see like Itzhak's been like very even keeled, not really like revealing much emotion about like seeing Oscar change over time, and like
Mm-hmm.
pivoting away from this is all business to like I actually care about these people and I can use my power and influence to impact the situation, and kind of trick the Nazis at the same time. Like I'm thinking about like when he's like spraying the train cars,
Yeah.
um, like to try to get these people like water, and the Nazis are just laughing like he's just doing it to humiliate them. So
Yeah.
he's good at like for most of the movie like kind of walking this line between like staying in good with the Nazis but also being able to like help out as many Jewish people as he can. And that's where it like culminates in this whole like idea to get him um, into Czechoslovakia at his
Mm-hmm.
new factory.
At his factory where they're making shells for ammunition. So
Yes.
yeah.
Which was awesome the way that turned out, especially like seeing that was apparently entirely historical,
Yeah.
from what I read. So um, but
Interesting
I went
too.
off on a tangent there. Sorry. I was saying it was cool to see like Itzhak as he's typing out this list, like you you see kind of some flashes of like emotion in him at this point. He's not very emotional. Like he's for a man that's being, you know, horribly persecuted. He's still a businessman, still trying to like make things successful and all this all the
Yeah.
time. But you finally see some flashes of him like being like, oh, okay, like he's on our team now. Like
Yeah.
he's all in on helping us,
Especially
which
with
was cool.
Schindler being like more names.
Yeah,
Put more names
more
on it.
names. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's like, man, cool. I'm
And
on.
like
Let's do it.
and essentially he's buying these people too. He's paying for each one of these people that he's putting on this list. Almost like, I mean, like slaves. He's there's a price on every single person's name to get on that list. So the
Yeah,
fact that he keeps going more, we need more names. We need more names. Um, it's very hopeful scene once you kind of realize what they're doing.
yeah. And
And
then the last for me was like at the very end. So if you have anything else before that,
I have basically when the war ends and Germany gives up, um, Schindler basically has all of the Jewish people that have worked in his factory, were working in his factory, in the factory floor, telling them, "Hey, Germany has surrendered." And then I like when he acknowledges the German soldiers that has invited in, and he's like, "Hey, I bet they've told you to execute every single one of them. Here's your chance if you want to," which is a bold move, I think. He's like, feel free. We haven't been doing anything in here this whole time, just to let you know. We haven't made a single shell that's capable of firing. Like, hey, shoot all these people if you want. And everybody drops their gun or walks out.
very
I
bold.
guess, yeah, to try and get ahead of having to surrender to the Allies, the Russians, or the English or the Americans and stuff. So they leave, and Schindler tells everybody that he's going to have to leave too because he is himself a part of the Nazi Party, and he's going to have be found by the Allies and have to give himself up, and he's going to leave. But he tells them that they have their lives and everything, and then they present him. This is the scene that got me. This is the scene where I finally well, not finally, I cried a few times during this movie, but man, I broke down
Lost it.
um when they give him they all put together and sign this paper letter saying like, hey, this is what he did. He saved 1,100 people. He's not like the others. He had to work within the system again to save these people, but he did save people. Which, and then they give him what is it that they give him?
A ring.
A ring, yes, and engraved on it is from the Talmud, which translates to "He who saves one life saves the world entire." And during that scene, Liam Neeson or Oscar Schindler breaks down, and he said, "I could have got more. I could have," and starts like picking up. He's like, "This car, this could have gotten me 10 more. This, this button could have gotten me 2." Like, just picking out everything, and all of the Jewish people around him are like, "Hey, we are surviving because you did this for us." So, and thanking him, and then he drives off. Yeah,
Liam was great in that scene.
yeah,
Like very, very compelling. And yeah.
and that's like the biggest emotional break we get from him. Like biggest change anyway from him, and he is just fully breaking down. He's with his wife, and she's like holding him in the car, and yeah, it's pretty intense. And then we get, and I don't know if you have this too, but like after this scene, a Russian soldier happens upon the Jewish people that are left there at the factory or in that town, and he tells them like, "What are y'all sitting here for? Like, there's a town over there. Go over there." And then we see the shot of them all on the hill walking towards that town, and then it transitions into color, and we see people from today walking, and then it cuts into that scene of which a beautiful song that we hear over this, and we see them, each of the Jewish families that are represented, or the Schindler Jews, as they're called, placing stones on Oscar Schindler's grave. And it's in that scene, it's the real life person with the actor that portrayed
Yeah.
them, which I did read that, like, in the VHS version of it or whatever, that it's just the Jewish person and not the actor. I was actually
Huh.
going to watch this all the way to the end just to
Oh
see if it
yeah.
was.
We'll fact check us on that.
Yeah, I'll have to come back to that. But I felt like, I mean, I was already crying with the Liam Neeson scene there at the end, but this scene just woof.
I I was getting so emotional. I thought about just skipping the rest of it. I was like, I know what this is going to be. Like, this is just going to keep making me cry.
Yeah.
With all these real people, it's just like, but I felt like it was disrespectful to do that, so I kept it on.
No.
But it was so beautifully done, and just the music again, like on top of it, is just like,
Yeah.
it's been a really long time since like the music has like got me so in my feels, like,
Hmm.
and of course the subject matter
Yeah.
is already taking you halfway there, but man, the music just
And like they go through, they don't let up either. Like they go through each person putting those stones on there.
mhm,
Um,
cover it.
yeah, cover it with stones, which is a Jewish tradition instead of flowers. Or they often will
Oh,
put stones on graves as opposed to. So if you ever go to a cemetery and you have Jewish graves and they have those on top, that's a Jewish person. So
interesting.
the only reason I know that is because of um, I went to Arlington Cemetery when I was in high school for senior trip, and on the Jewish graves, which are marked with the Star of David, there would be stones on them, and that's what our tour
No
guide told
flowers.
us. Yeah. But then we had Liam Neeson putting the two roses on to kind of finalize it, putting them on Oscar Schindler's grave, and we learn like what happened. You get that like prologue thing about these are the 1,100 Jewish people that Oscar Schindler and their families that Oscar Schindler saved, and then it talks about Oscar Schindler and how basically before this time and after the war, like after this all happened, he was kind of a failure. And never really succeeded ever again with this. This is the only, like, I say the only thing that he did, but like, what a great thing that he did. But yeah, like after this, he was recognized for those things, and a tree was planted in his honor. I believe in Jerusalem, but like, uh, yeah, he failed every business that he tried. He kind of did that before the war, even failed at every business until the war and became a profiteer. And he spent
Yeah.
all his money that he did make during the war saving these people. So he didn't have a lot to start from capital wise after the war. So kind of sad.
Yeah, but also like, I mean, it you can't speak to before all of these events, but I do feel like that's a testament to like who he became, because he was there, like he had the success, like
Yeah.
he knew what he needed to do to make a successful business, exploit somebody.
Yeah.
In this case, it was through the war. Like, so he could have, after this, gone elsewhere and made a bunch more money by exploiting people.
Yeah.
But the fact that they say he was not successful in anything after this makes me think like he was truly like
Changed
a
over.
good
Yeah.
person after
Yeah.
this. At least in some capacity.
Yeah.
Good person is loose because like, when you get into like the womanizing, and like some of the other like partying and stuff that I'm
Yeah.
sure he was
Yeah.
involved in. But I still feel like good can be appropriate, because of just this massive great thing that he did.
Yeah. So, what else? Did you have any other scenes or that I might have missed or skipped over?
No, I mean, there was a bunch of like little like micro moments, here and there, that like cinematography wise or like music wise, just like really like struck me. Like when they were at Auschwitz and like the whole like shower scene where they thought they were
Oof.
all about to die, but it was
Yeah,
actually
that
water. Like that
I have a
was that was
that
tough.
was yeah, that was in my one of my scenes when we're gonna talk here soon about.
That's
But
it. So
yeah,
yeah, that's
let's
basically it.
okay. Oh wait, who do you? I mean, this is kind of a weird category, but who was your favorite character, or maybe somebody that stole a couple scenes for you?
I like Itzhak the best.
Yeah,
He was like my go-to character.
I think I liked him more and more as we were talking. I think you said one thing in particular, like how even keel he is the entire time when just atrocities are happening around him. And he is just like business as usual. I mean, what else are you going to do? You either panic and
Or you do as much legwork as you can behind the
yeah,
scenes to get these people hired in the
yeah,
factories, and like he's just like he's using what he can,
yeah,
and that's not nearly the capacity that um, Oscar has, but he's right hand man and
yeah,
passing whatever he can off his way. But he does like he's a businessman through and through the whole time, regardless of like how bad things are getting. Um, yeah, he even says something at one point about like um, wanting things to succeed. I think when he's like getting ready to go to Auschwitz, he's still like trying to give like
yeah.
Oscar like instructions on like how to keep the business going and stuff. It's like ugh, crazy.
Tough. Yeah. The only other person I had Itzhak as well. It probably edges her out a little bit. I did love any scenes with Helen. I thought she did a really good job, just
She
like
did.
being terrified, but also remaining like loyal, not loyal in the good way, but like loyal as to just trying to survive, like that survival instinct kicking in, and like
Mm.
scenes with her and like her, especially whenever she gets to where they need to be, in Czechoslovakia or whatever. Um, and like just the relief of like, like I'm out. Even when she was going to, I think she ended up at Auschwitz, which oof, that was tough. But yeah, like she was really good to me.
Yeah.
Okay, some quotes that really stick out to you.
Yeah, I've got a couple. Early on, Oscar says, I think it's to Isak. My father said you only need three things in life: a good
Hmm.
doctor, a forgiving priest, and a clever accountant. I
Yep.
really like that. I tried to pick like some of the lighter things, as opposed to like some of the longer, like
Yeah.
powerful
Same.
speeches. um, the small amounts of humor that I could glean. Um, so along that line, when let's see, it was Oscar and Eamon, um, right before his like speech about the emperor or whatever, like he starts all that as he's falling to the ground drunk with your liver's gonna explode like a hand grenade. I don't know why that struck me so like funny. And then the only other one I had written down was um, after the whole kissing debacle with the Jewish woman, he's talking to like one of the Nazi officers, and the Nazi officer says, "We give you a Jewish girl at 5 marks a day, Oscar. You should kiss us, not them."
Yeah,
I thought that was like pretty
that was
funny.
good.
So,
I have a couple more. I've already touched on a couple, but like once they complete the list, Itzhak says the list, it's an absolute good. The list is life. All around its margins lies the gulf. I
mm.
really like that.
I think
Um,
I tried to write that one down, but I put the list is an absolute, and then I just never filled in the rest. So I'm glad you had that one.
yeah, the list is life, and I like that all around its margins lies the gulf. I like that.
Mm,
Oscar says Stern to Itzhak, if this factory ever produces a shell that can actually be fired, I'll be very unhappy.
that was
When
good.
talking, yeah. Itzhak early on says, by law, I have to tell you, sir, I am a Jew. And Oscar responds with, I'm a German. So there we are. Like, um, Eamon says it has a nice sheen to it, talking about his suit, Oscar's suit. He said, what is that, silk? And Oscar says, of course, I'd say I'd get you one, but the man who made it is probably dead. And this happens like right after the liquidation, like all that stuff has already happened and everything. And it's kind of
That's
just like,
like first meeting with him too, isn't
yeah,
it? Like bold.
yeah, bold. And like, we know that he's being facetious, like, and I don't know if Eamon has the kind of mental capacity to understand that he's being made fun of or being there. Eamon, of course, whenever he touches a reflection in the mirror, talking about "I pardon you," being more like an emperor, and then of course Oscar saying "I didn't do enough" at the end. That was my last one. So
Hmm.
there's a lot of good scenes in the like good, like especially what you were saying, like good monologues of talking, good paragraphs in here that were really
Yeah,
good and
when
profound.
Eamon's talking to Helen in the basement, like you mentioned briefly, but that whole thing, like it's kind of framed like a conversation, but she doesn't say a word the whole time,
Yeah.
so it ends up just being like a monologue or like just like a self conversation,
Mhm.
um, where he's doing all the back and forth. I thought that one was a really good one too, but it was pretty long. So
Biggest laugh, cry, scare, or thrill. I didn't have any laughs in this movie. I mean, there were little lines that we kind of talked about everywhere to kind of
yeah.
break it up a little bit, but I didn't really have like a scene where I was like, "Ah, that's hilarious."
Mm-mm.
Um, I had 3 written down that were kind of in the scare or cry, scare, thrill kind of thing. Obviously, like the liquidation of the ghetto is a terrible 20 minutes to witness. Um, it's just awful. And then the other 2 that I had, thrill or kind of scare, is the shower scene. Like we briefly talked on that, but as these women who had already talked about these showers and being filled with gas as kind of like a nightmare, like a bedtime story that these people had heard, like if you go in there, you're not coming out, kind of thing. And these women looking up at these um, shower faucet. I'm trying to think what they're called, but
Yeah.
as
Faucet.
they
Yeah.
yeah, as the faucet or whatever actually turns on and water comes out, all the relief of that. And I think it's unique. I saw some stuff about water. Obviously, water being a symbol of life in this. So we see it a couple times.
Right. Yeah.
Spraying down the cars is the water, and they're drinking water. Or when Itzhak takes off the icicle from outside of
Yeah. Yeah.
and they warm that up to make water, and then when the water comes on to for those women that were taken to Auschwitz, like the use of water as life. So thought that was pretty cool. What do you got? Sorry, I'm talking a lot.
No. 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 I I still think like the shower scene was like very impactful as far as like I don't know what the correct word, but scare. We'll say scare thrill, because it was like very like you saw these huge smokestacks like spitting out ash, so like that the women have realized that it is an actuality. Like
Yeah.
people are, you know, being gassed, burned, whatever. Um, and then I think the part that I cried at the most, other than like the ghettos, because that was just like a long 20 minutes of tears here and there, but the one-armed guy, like when he got done the way he did,
Yeah.
by those guys, really hit me hard. I think that was like the first like real hard gut punch of the movie,
Yeah.
where we just see like full on brutality. Um, yeah, and it
Yeah.
was striking in the worst way.
Yeah. I didn't put down a WTF or ridiculous moment, mostly because this entire thing is just like a what the fuck. Like,
I do have one like just brief,
Yeah. go for it.
slightly humorous. The birthday party that Schindler has, like while the basement scene is going on between
Mhm.
um the whole like birthday kisses routine that he goes through
Yeah.
was wild.
Yeah.
Like he's just like attacking these women and just kissing them all. Um, so that kind of got like a raised eyebrows moment
Yeah.
out of me and maybe like a half smile because I was like,
Dude loves the ladies.
good night. He kissed
I-
probably like 20 women in the span
And not
of like
just
30
kissed,
seconds.
like
Just lunge
kissed.
kissing it. Like
He
it was
reminds
crazy.
so there was an old host of this is wild, but old host of Family Feud in the 80s, 70s and 80s. I forget what his name is. It's like Richard something, but would kiss every female contestant on there and not just kissed every single. It's wild. And that's what that reminded me of. It reminded me of that really bad. I forget his name. Somebody can look it up later.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to look that up.
Yeah, that is kind of what that's pretty ridiculous.
It shook me a little bit, especially like just with everything else that was going on.
Yeah, it takes you out of it a little bit. Yeah. Like,
Wow, I've
dude,
never
calm
had a birthday
down.
party. No, I'm kidding.
Put it away, man. I'm gonna do that to you at your birthday. Just kiss
You
you.
won't.
I'll do it. Best music moment.
So I've got kind of a split. I looked up the names because I didn't really know how else to describe it. But so when the women arrive at Auschwitz, there's like a song, I guess, called Auschwitz Birkenau.
Mm-hmm.
That's like just very, very like sad strings. Not sure. Cello would be my guess, but
Yeah.
that was probably like the most impactful music for me throughout the whole thing. The other thing, during the ghetto liquidation, as you will, when the German soldier was playing the piano
Oh
while
yeah,
they were
playing the
like cutting
Bach.
to
Yeah.
scenes of just like, you know, finding all the hiding Jewish people. English Suite 2 by
Hmm.
Bach, which I think both of them said like a different composer,
Yeah, one of
which
I
was
think
kind of
they
like a
said it
little
was
joke.
Mozart. Yeah.
He's like, oh, Mozart. I was like, no, that's not.
No,
But
it's Bach.
it was like it was very what's the word I'm looking for? Well juxtaposed, I guess,
Yeah.
if you will.
I
What about you?
chose the song at the very end because just with the people singing. It's called Jerusalem of Gold. Apparently there's some kind of controversy around that song. Not controversy, but like when this film was shown in Israel, the people laughed at it because that was like a pop song from the 60s. That they
Oh,
chose, although the message, I don't understand why it's a pop song at all. It's not very poppy, or I would love to hear a pop version of that. But it was a pop song in the 60s that was written in the 60s. So only in the version that is in Israel is that song changed. But I felt like that song was beautiful, and I really liked the voices singing it and everything. But then I also just the vibe. Like, I wanted to point out John Williams' score, like we've been talking about this whole time. I feel like it's very unique in the sense, like we've had a couple John Williams scores, I think, this year, but we had Jurassic Park, Spielberg's other movie this year. And that's a traditional, like when we think of John Williams, we think of Jurassic Park, we think of Indiana Jones, Star Wars, like all these things. And this one is just so string and piano heavy that is very opposite of him, who is very brass heavy and very I don't know, grandstandy. It feels like you think of like the Fox
logo or whatever. Like you think of stuff
Is
like
that him?
that. No, I have no idea if that's
Oh.
him. It's just the first thing that I could think of. But
No,
I
I
mean,
got you. I got you.
yeah, you just think of all those like really famous scores that I just listed off, and those are all John Williams. He's like probably one of the most nominated guys ever at the Academy Awards. But yeah, his use of strings and piano, especially through some of these really tense, serious scenes, it's just good.
I'm a sucker for
Richard.
strings.
So I do have an answer for it's Richard Dawson, also known as the Kissing Bandit.
It sounds like he's my 93 recast. So we'll just pencil him
Richard
in real
Dawson
quick.
hadn't. I mean, he's dead now, but who would have thought that Richard Dawson from Family Feud would get brought up in a Schindler's List pod? So it's whatever. But no, John
52
Williams
slash,
is
baby.
incredible. Yeah, 52. All right, skipping the next one. Who gave the best performance?
I think it had to be Ray for me.
Ray Fiennes. Yeah,
Yeah, man,
that's what I had.
he was gross.
Yeah,
And I can't imagine like getting into that headspace to play that role. Villains are always we've seen a lot over the years, like people that really dive into their villain roles can end up with some problems, mental health problems. But like I didn't research at all, like if he experienced anything like that or anything documented at least. But I can't imagine like being the way he was in this and not.
I did have in one of my facts that, or I didn't write it down, but one of the people who survived the camps there was on set and was like horrified of Ray Fiennes because he reminded her so much of the actual guy. That it just brought back a lot of memories.
Yeah.
It's just insane.
Which is like it's complimentary, but at the same time, like,
it's like, this is, I mean, the things we do for art kind of thing. But
yeah,
Ray Fiennes, he was definitely it's interesting that I think like obviously playing one of the most like real life horrible people villains on the planet, and then also playing a very like one of the most like the fictional version of this is like him playing Voldemort in Harry Potter. Like,
oh, I thought you were gonna say Red Dragon.
No, I mean, the guy's good at playing a villain. I love him. In my favorite version of him is still Grand Budapest, I think.
Oh yeah,
yeah, I love him in Grand Budapest. He's amazing. No Oscar yet, though. He needs one. I don't think he has an Oscar. Maybe he does. Maybe in The English Patient. I don't know. I'll have to look that up. But no, I think he stole it, and I have some thoughts about Liam Neeson that I'll share later. As we're
he's
closing.
Pretty like, yeah, I'm interested to hear, but he's like pretty new on the scene in this, right? Like
very,
he's not
very kind of
very established.
Mm-hmm. Kind of a no one right now. All right, I didn't do a 93 recast, but I did do a 2023 recast as best as I could.
Okay.
What about you? Did you do
I'll hit you with my one and only person that I can think of to plug in anywhere.
Yeah.
Mads Mikkelsen
as
Eamon.
Oh yeah.
I don't know if he's age appropriate. I'm not sure how old he is right now, but
yeah, no.
Like that face.
I tried. I was like, Mads is so good as a villain. Like,
I love it.
He would have been perfect in that role. Yeah.
That's
he would have been so
2 years.
Yeah. No, I cast 5 people and I was trying to think of Schindler, and you know who I liked for Schindler is actually the guy that plays Daredevil, Charlie Cox.
Charlie Cox?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
I thought that would be a nice role. Could be a womanizer. Could be good, but also a little slimy too. I don't know. I was like, yeah, he sounds good.
Have you seen him in anything else other than Daredevil, by the way?
Stardust. He's wonderful in Stardust. If you've never seen Stardust, that's a recommendation for everybody.
Stardust. All right.
And from chat, Ray Fiennes does not have any Oscars. He
Hmm.
he deserves one.
Yeah.
Let's get him an Oscar with our power.
Surprised he didn't. Wait, was he in the remake of? Never mind. That's
Don't worry about
I'm
it.
not gonna think
Don't
of
worry
that.
about it. Matt Smith, who's probably most famous for playing Doctor Who. After David Tennant, he was in a
Oh
very
yeah,
horrible Morbius movie.
yeah.
Yeah, I thought he would be probably a good Eamon. I think
Yeah.
so. He could play a bad guy pretty good. What else do I have here? Michael Stolbarg, who's probably not as recognizable to a lot of people. He's not a very flashy character at Fort Itzhak. He's in Call Me by Your Name. He's in A Serious Man. You've probably seen him in a ton of different things, but I thought he would be kind of good for that role, that Ben Kingsley role. Melanie Laurent, who plays Shoshana from Inglorious Bastards. I had her actually for Emily Schindler playing his
Oh,
wife.
nice.
Yeah,
That's a good one.
I had her in the Helen Hirsch role because it is a Jewish role. Melanie Laurent is Jewish, but I was like, no, I think she'd actually be good in that. So
I
whatever.
like that one.
Yeah, and Maud Apatow. I don't know why I went with Maud Apatow for Helen Hirsch. I was
For Helen.
struggling. Yeah, I was struggling.
Just
By
hey,
that point, like, well, let's go for it.
you're way better at that than I am, man. I'm always bad at the recaps.
I like it, but I was getting down to it. I was like, God, I want to do this, but I don't know. Any facts, fun facts, or things that you learned about this movie?
Yeah, let's see. We went over a few of them. It's about the red coat girl being a real person. I've got a couple more. You want to do a trade off? I'll do
Yeah,
one. You
let's
do
trade
one.
off. Let's trade off. Yeah.
Okay. So I'm gonna do the best one first, obviously. No. Um, it was shot on location, which was cool. In Poland. Spielberg apparently did like a ton of research, and then they recreated like the camp in a nearby rock quarry um, in Poland, and they also were allowed to actually film some shots at the gates of Auschwitz,
Yeah.
which was pretty cool.
Yeah. I think I learned that they gave him the opportunity to shoot within Auschwitz, and he said no and chose to like recreate it instead because he didn't want to.
Yeah,
He felt like it would be
I can't
offensive.
imagine.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I would be the same.
So another kind of thing about that is Steven Spielberg refused any residuals or royalties from this movie and gave them instead to the Shoah Foundation, which records and preserves written videotape testimonies from survivors of genocide worldwide, including the Holocaust. So he doesn't need he didn't need that money from this. He's fine. What's your
Yeah,
next one?
I had that one right now. Apparently, he coined it as blood money, which true,
True.
very true.
Yeah.
Yeah, most of mine, actually, I think the rest of mine are kind of like around like the backstory and how it came to be. Um, so way before this movie happened in '93, um, Poldek, I think it was.
Mm-hmm.
Poldek, Poldek. We'll just call him Poldek.
Yeah, Poldek. Yeah.
Was in L.A. under another name, Leopold Page,
Mm-hmm.
and that's kind of how like the novel came about, as well as way prior to that in the '60s, he was telling people the story at his like leatherworking shop, or I can't remember what kind of shop it was. And so back in the '60s, well before this, um, Marvin Ghosh's wife, I don't know who
Yeah.
that is, but apparently was a director at the time, was told this story by Poldek at the shop, and she naturally went and told her husband because it was an amazing story. So MGM purchased the film rights for this back in like the '60s, and it went as far as like him hiring the co-screenwriter of Casablanca to write the
Oh wow.
script. But then it kind of stalled out and never happened until Spielberg came along. But a similar thing happened or not with Spielberg, with the author who wrote Schindler's Ark,
Mhm.
um, was told the story, or I think he was told directly, or maybe it was his wife too. I can't remember, but same sort of thing. The story was told again, and like, oh, this would make a great film. Like, this story needs to be told, and then
Yeah.
it actually happened.
Nice. This was the most expensive black and white film to date. Previous record was held for 30 years by The Longest Day about World War II. So pretty
World
interesting.
War II.
World War II. Yeah. What's your next one?
Spielberg wanted someone else to do it
Yeah.
other than himself. I saw that he first asked Roman Polanski and then Sidney Pollack, both who turned it down, and then got Scorsese like in on it and agreeing to do it, but then he ended up sort of like taking it back over because
Hmm.
he felt like he could do it. So
Yeah. Polanski turned it down because it was too like he was a part. Roman Polanski was in these camps. Um, and so it was too much for him to tackle. He eventually does go on to do his own
not the piano.
not the piano. He goes to do on his own Holocaust movie later, but where he does include some things that are a little bit autobiographical. And yes, we have problems with Roman Polanski, but yeah, those aren't
Yeah, we don't have
need.
to. We don't have to
Don't
go
have to worry
there.
about it.
Not for this pod.
Not for this one. No. First feature length film to be rated R for Spielberg.
Ooh,
Yeah.
that's a good fact.
Also, one of the first movies of one and only. I think there are only two movies, if I'm correct, of him having a sex scene in the movie. And yes, there is a sex scene. It's a Schindler sex scene, but the only other sex scene in a movie that I of his is in Munich.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and nudity. Obviously, this is one of the only ones that he shows nudity in too. Obviously, the nudity during the sex scene and everything, but also much more nudity that's non-sexual and just
Yeah.
terrible. So,
Do you think it's the ratings back then is always like interesting to me. Do you think if this is not black and white, it's NC-17?
I don't know because of the non-sexual nature of the nudity there. Because on it, like one thing I did read, I didn't put it down here, is that they have shown this on television in its entirety without editing. I think the only parts that they edit out are the sex scenes. They don't edit out anything else.
The full frontal nudity is not
Full,
edited out on.
nope,
Wow,
nope. None of that is
that's surprising.
because it's of a non-sexual nature, and like,
Yeah.
I mean, they included all of the violence too, and shown this on network television. I think it was on NBC one year, so or multiple years. I don't know.
Man, some of that violence, I think if it's in color, I don't think it makes it to like that drastically changes things.
Yeah,
Like there's like exploding brain matter, like vividly in
yeah.
several like.
I don't
Not to
know if this
mention
is a
just like
thing with the black and white too, and like actually capturing things in black and white, but like, or maybe it was on purpose. But sometimes when you see somebody get hit with a bullet, or through the head or anything, you almost see the pink mist a
yeah.
little bit. I
Oh
felt like
yeah.
I could
Oh
see
yeah.
it. Yeah,
It looks like a almost like a dust cloud.
yeah.
Like yeah.
I don't know if that was hard to capture or if that was intentionally, pink, because you don't see blood any other time that's like red. You only see the red with the girl.
Hmm.
So I don't know. It was interesting.
Also, speaking of like technical things, the the other color that we didn't mention, which is probably way more important, then I realize, not knowing anything about like Jewish culture or anything, but the candles
Oh
that were
yeah,
lit during the
Shabbos.
Sabbath
Yeah,
or something. Um, I wonder how hard that was to like to do the color for a flame like
yeah,
that. That that seemed like something that would be very difficult, especially in the 90s.
yeah.
But it was like seamless. So, anyways,
Because
sorry.
that's at the
Tangent.
very beginning, right? Like whenever they light it and then it goes into black and white.
No, I'm talking about the opposite. Like
Oh,
towards
at
the
the
end of the
end.
movie,
Yeah,
when they like he's like lighting a candle, and as it catches on the wick, it like the
yeah,
flame turns to color. It was cool.
yeah.
Um, Black and white,
It-
man.
Black and white. It's great. I love it. That's why people need to watch black and white movies. I don't care if they were made in 1993. There are some really, really good black and white movies out there. I really encourage people to do that. I don't care if you
We'll
hate.
hear about at least one in your movie recommendations, right?
I've got one that is definitely in black and white, but it's a documentary. The only other thing, or one, oh, I got a couple more, but I'll try and go through them
Go ahead.
at least quickly. 40% of the film was shot using a handheld camera, which I think is a very different thing
Oh,
for Spielberg. I think he's just wanting to get it a little bit more personal, a little bit more putting us in there than his other movies, which are, a lot of crane shots or a lot of moving shots, whether it's a T-Rex chasing somebody down. But I feel like a lot of this is just more on a personal level. It's more people. It's not grand. And so he uses 40% of this.
40%. Yeah, that's a
Yeah,
lot.
that's a lot. So what else you got? That's it?
That's all mine.
The only thing I wanted to mention is Michael Haneke, who is a German director. He's written or he's done movies like Caché or Funny Games. He was very critical of the scene that I think, both were affected by it. And I'm interested by it, but like he says, there's a scene in the film where we don't know if there's gas or water coming out of the showers in the camp. You can only do something like that with a naive audience, like in the United States. It's not an appropriate use of form. Spielberg meant well, but it was dumb. And I disagree. I mean, I get what he's saying. Like,
That gas wouldn't come out of, or like gas wouldn't be delivered that way. Is that what he's
no,
getting at?
he's just like, I think he's talking about it being a cheap way. Like, it's cheap that we would be so affected by the fact that gas is coming out or that water comes out instead of gas, and that we're dumb for being so naive and like about that.
No.
Yeah, I disagree too, and very much disagree.
I think that the emotion in that scene comes from the women not knowing.
Yeah,
All they've heard is tale of going into a room and dying by gas. Like they don't know
yeah.
about the delivery system or like what's feasible.
And I
Like,
don't think that, like, just because we have that setup scene, like, I don't think it cheapens it at all,
mm-mm.
just for us to be like, oh, thank God it wasn't that, because that shit happened.
That was
Like,
the real
people
like
walked
emotion that they
into,
experienced. Yeah.
yeah, people
No.
walked into people were handed bars of soap, believing that they were going to shower, and then they get killed. Like, that happened. So that's where
Yeah.
I really, really do not agree with it.
Yeah.
So,
I completely disagree with that as well.
yeah.
It's got nothing to do with the audience. Like,
No. I think that's a bad take by that guy. But I don't have any
yeah.
others.
Whoever that guy is. What was his name again?
Michael Haneke, although I do love him as a filmmaker.
Can we trash talk him? No, I'm kidding.
Yeah, absolutely. He doesn't make perfection, so yeah, you also have the buildup of the whole movie of people getting killed on screen, but why wouldn't you think more people would die? Like, yeah, it's kind of a relief. Like, yes, let there be relief. Let these women have relief that they already know that they've been shipped off to an awful place like Auschwitz. Like, it's nice. I don't know if it's nice, but I mean, it's impactful and it's necessary, I think, for that. But
I agree.
you ain't all that. So Can you say a negative thing about this movie? I give you a pass. So.
Yeah, I struggled to come up with something. The I would say like other than Ray, like the acting wasn't like standout, but I think that
Mhm.
was intentional.
Yeah.
Like I think it was supposed to be more like the story taking, you know, centerpiece. Not just like, you know, a biopic of Oscar, but like
Mhm.
yes that, but also like showing the full scope of what was happening.
Yeah.
Um so that would have probably been my criticism, but and you know or whoever was in that role as the villain, like you know to execute it well, you have to take it up a notch, and I think
Yeah.
he did. So
My only
all that say
complaint,
no.
yeah, my only complaint, and it's again, I even said it worked on me. Like it was so effective to me. I felt like Liam Neeson overacts in that ending scene just a little
Okay.
bit. Like it's just a little bit. Although there are some parts of that scene where I'm like, oh my god, that was great. Like when he drops the ring, I loved that, and I hope that I almost hope it wasn't even a scripted thing and like he just did it. I don't
I was
know,
kind of
but
wondering about
like, yeah, when he drops the ring, I was like, oh, that's so good. But there are some of the times when he's like, I didn't do enough. I didn't do enough. Where I was like, pull it back a
that.
little
A
bit.
little too
But
far.
yeah,
Okay.
but it worked completely on me. So like, honestly, that's it. I think this movie is beautiful, and amazing. So
I think that I disagree with you there, probably though because I was maybe crying too much
just
and maybe
crying, yeah.
didn't catch it.
I get it. I get it. So like I said, it worked on me. It was super effective. So
Yeah.
um it's hard to find something wrong with it. Like a fine wine and dish, if you could pair this with another movie for a double feature, which would be rough, what
Mhm.
would you choose?
I, I this is usually my favorite category, but I did not write down anything because I just couldn't wrap my head around trying to watch anything
More
else
of
as a
this?
double
More of
feature.
this? Yeah.
I mean I had to break this up into it took me damn near 5 hours to watch it just because I couldn't handle it all at
Yeah.
once. So
Well, if you wanted to
uh,
do another 9 hours, I recommend watching a documentary called Showa, which is 9 hours of documentary footage of the cleaning up of the camps and documentary
mhm.
footage and witness accounts and things like that. It's considered one of the greatest films ever made. Um, but yeah, 9 hours. It's on my list. I had mentioned Roman Polanski earlier. Roman Polanski's The Pianist is probably the best one on my list for like drama wise. If you're just looking for something similar, dramatic, Roman Polanski's The Pianist. It's very good. If you don't want 9 hours of just awful, there is a 32-minute short documentary called Night and Fog, which was actually the movie I was shown in high school as opposed to seeing Schindler's List. It's 32 minutes long, and it is a French documentary about the cleaning up of it might have been Krakow, the camp, or one of the camps anyway. It might be Auschwitz. But woof. You want to say something that really affected me and stuck with me for a very long time? It is that movie. Absolutely.
Yeah.
And then I just went a little ham on this. Just if people, obviously, I wouldn't recommend watching any of these movies back to back to back to back. Um, Sophie's Choice is another movie, kind of a romance, kind of also telling a sad story about the Holocaust at the same time. Um, Very hard movie to watch as well. Somebody in the chat says Remains of the Day. That's a little bit better of something that I would pair with this. So, yeah.
Yeah, I'd like to pair it with
Uh,
4 hours
Alcohol.
of meditation or
Yeah.
mindless activity.
Just a bottle of whiskey.
Yeah,
Yeah. All right. Rewatchability rating. If you could rate it 1 to 5.
it's very low. I did stick with a 2 for
Mhm.
rewatchability, which the only reason I bumped it up that high is because of the like it's so
Yeah.
powerful. And if you want to rewatch it, every 5 years or so, just to be reminded of what happened, there's there's been you know word circulating for a few decades now about like the Holocaust never happening, like all this conspiracy garbage. So something like this, even though it is historical fiction,
Yeah.
can kind of like remind you and keep you grounded in to what
Stay out
actually
of that
happened.
conspiracy. Yeah.
But it's not something that I'm gonna go back to again anytime soon.
I've watched it
Uh,
4 times
you watched it
this week.
4 times.
No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding. I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
I don't think I would even bump up the rewatchability if it was shorter.
Yeah.
Like,
I gave it a 3, honestly.
okay,
I just found the story like I think the things that are not rewatchable about this are the things obviously that are very hard to watch, but the main like drama story that we get of Schindler and like him, I found that so compelling and something that I could see myself watching it over and over again. Like watching them come do the list. Like that was even
that's
though
great.
he's just like add more names, add more. Like I found that very like engaging and I was into it. So I was like, yeah, I'm giving it a 3 because I'm a weirdo. So
I get it. It's it,
uh,
there's a lot of great things in this movie that it's number 8 on the list for a reason. Um, it's just it's so hard for me to
yeah.
think about like
Yeah, no, you're not wrong. I'm
seeing
a
some of that
sicko.
stuff again anytime soon.
I am a
Um,
sick person, so it's a hard watch,
yeah.
definitely. Um, if overall star rating, what'd you give it?
I don't think it's necessarily a absolutely perfect movie, but I did go with 5 stars.
I gave it a 5 as well. I don't know what I could. I don't know why I would bump
It's
it down. I just don't.
Yeah, I couldn't come up with even a half. I couldn't come up with a reason to even half star it down.
Yeah,
And I don't really even like Liam Neeson that much. So that's
yeah,
not saying a lot.
yeah. It is. All right. Well, that's it. We've come to the end. It's been a long 2 hours. I'm sorry for going
Long
2
movie, a lot
hours.
to talk about.
A lot to talk about. Lots of. We didn't even scratch the surface. I feel like on a lot of things.
No,
But thank you, Joseph. You're amazing and wonderful. I appreciate you all the time. And thank you all for sticking with me through this and participating in chat. Or if you didn't participate, that's okay. There's always opportunities to participate with future movies. By the way, we are going to continue doing this. We're coming up to the end of. We've only got a few movies left. Our next movie is Pelican Brief. It's currently streaming on Max. After that, I think we've got 4 movies left, so 4 weeks
nice.
before we finish it. A couple things that are going to happen. One, we've got a whole new year, 52/1994, season 2 of this. And the list is out. I made it public. It is available. It is in order of the movies that we will be watching. So if you want to check that out, you can go to my Letterboxd. I believe my Letterboxd is linked here on Twitch or YouTube or wherever we're watching this. It is just CD Waits. You can look for that and look at the list. It is now public. It's just called 52/1994. We will also be doing, as we're kind of wrapping up, I'll send out a Google form document where we're going to do an award show kind of thing and calculate some votes. So I'll be doing that in the next couple weeks. Send that out to anybody that's interested. Maybe I need to start a Discord or something where I get people in there to do that. So get people talking or try and get some more people interested in it. But that'll be out there too. All the while, check me out on any socials. It is just CD Waits, Waits, on most things. And give me a follow on YouTube or Twitch or whatever you want. I don't care. Engage with me. And we'll talk more about movies as they come on. Again, thank you so much for being here. Thank you, Joseph. You're an amazing, wonderful human being. I am going to try and end stream by rating somebody again. That worked out so well last time that we're going to try it again and
Yeah.
see what we do or who we're gonna go with, we're gonna go over to my friend Miss Meow. She plays Fortnite, and nobody actually is talking about movies in any times that I do this. But we're gonna go
We
raid
need more
her.
movie talkers.
We need more movie talkers. We definitely do. But I'm going to go ahead and start that raid, get that started. Again, thank you all so much for being here. If you do follow us over to Miss Meow, please give her a follow. She's a wonderful person and just a really good person. So we'll see you there. Bye.
Bye.
Yo, yo, yo.